Oh,
Oh, it's live. Ah,
oh,
it's
it's live.
live.
Okay. It's
Yay,
live.
it's live.
Okay. Yay. Okay, let me change the banner. Okay, cool. I have no idea if anyone is here yet, but so happy to announce the first Lifeline live with Linka Lin. So hashtag LLLLL. It was not on purpose. I think it's just a sign of the universe. Oh, we have someone already. Oh, okay.
Oh,
We have
wow.
Ngan. Oh, so cool. Hi, Ngan. Okay, we can even see the
Hello, xin
comments.
chào.
Perfect. Xin ciao. Cool. So yeah, so it will be, I think, like our conversation in September. We'll just have some random comments popping up from time to time. So, hi Sachi, konnichiwa.
Hi, Sachi.
Cool. So yeah, I think your first episode was amazing. So many people keep speaking about it. So everyone is asking for a second part. And yeah, I think just to kickstart, um, I'm thinking what to do because in the offline episode there is the introduction, there is me speaking, all this stuff. Maybe I can do that also just to explain a bit. I think everyone knows what is Lifeline, but maybe just to explain in one sentence, yeah, Lifeline is a podcast to interview amazing people like Linka from all around the world and really trying to understand where they come from, what is their personal journey, what is a small step that brought them to what they are doing, what they do today, and just understanding what is the impact that they want to have in the future. And yeah, Linka was the first episode ever, and she has such a long and inspiring journey that we didn't manage to cover everything. And back then, I was just limiting myself to 1 hour. Today, sky is the limit. Well, I know you have a meeting in a few hours, um, but yeah, I think maybe just to kickstart, um, I have one challenge for you, Linka. If you could introduce yourself, not in the same way as last time, and you are not allowed to speak about movers, Storius. Yeah, that's
Whoa. Oh my
you
God.
could talk.
Okay. All right. That's a very, very difficult one because, probably those of you who know me from the first episode and also those who are listening to the second one. And by the way, you have not yet listened to my first episode, highly recommend. And just want to say hi to Shati, to Pam. Welcome to this first live. So to introduce the reason why I think it's so hard to introduce myself, not talking about movers, not talking about stories, and very, very different from how I introduced myself in the very first episode. It's because I do see all those things are part of who I am. They are very, very important identities of me. So I actually have this question to myself when started working in youth collab, because that's something that I've been always doing, voluntarily. When I before I joined youth collab, right, I was a community builder in startup weekend, a lot of startup activities in Hong Kong. I was working in ICE, a social enterprise. I was I was part of ISAC. I started a youth development organization. So all these things came together in youth collab. So then there was actually an identity crisis, during that time. So who am I apart from my work? So I think that this question I really like to think about again. Who am I without stories, without mover? So who am I as a person, right? A lot of people, when they try to when they try to introduce themselves, many of them think about their nationality. They think about community they have a sense of belonging to, and I think that's because sometimes when we have when we think about our personal identity, when we think about we are not having very strong personal label, we want to attach to something bigger, right? But then throughout my whole journey, I feel like I am Linka. I am just myself. I don't need to attach to someone. I don't need to mention, where I'm come from. I don't need to mention about, the organizations I'm working on. I just need to tell everyone I'm Linka, and that's who I am. And I am so many things combining together. So specifically about, if we're removing a large chunk of Storius and movers away from this label of Linka, I would say that I am a person who really enjoy absorbing and understanding knowledge, a lot of knowledge and understanding human, and bringing and helping people to see things with different perspectives, and also living a very positive life through trying different things, through making myself healthy, making my mind healthy, making my body healthy. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Linka, for the great intro. I think it went beyond my expectations, but I think yeah, I think it's a very good point. Like when we introduce ourselves, like we tend to link it to something bigger than us. So like where we study, where we work. And I think for Lifeline, we have time. Usually we do that in society or in events because we don't have time, like we have 1 second to introduce ourselves. So we're like, okay, easy version is, yeah, I work at UNDP. Yeah, don't ask me any question. But here, yeah, it's really, we have time to discover who is Linka. And, yeah, I think everyone is excited on the chat. And yeah, I mean, again, on this question, I love asking this kind of, I mean, it's a new way that we both use, in our meetings, like introduce yourself. You're not allowed to speak about work for 1 minute, about climate for 1 minute. And if it's so difficult, even me, I try to do it. And the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm Dean Long at work at UNDP. So yeah, it's so difficult. So thank you for playing along. Um, okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, no worries. I was just monologuing. I wasn't sure. Actually, I wasn't sure if it was me or you. So I was like, okay, I'm monologuing. I'm not sure if I disappeared. Um, and yeah, and before I jump into the next question, I just wonder, we have a few people here. The last question I ask at every episode is if you could describe yourself in 3 hashtags. But this time, since it's live and we have people, let me ask people in the chat. I think everyone knows Linka so far, from what I see, or everyone at least heard the episode of Linka. Could you share how would you describe Linka in 3 hashtags? So please comment, and then we'll have Linka comment live on this. I've had a beautiful banner here. But yeah, I just wonder. So you listen to yourself. I listened again to the first episode. What did you think? And what else would you like to speak about today that we didn't cover on the first episode?
Right. So I think the first of all, I really want to say that I really like the tagline of Lifeline, like our life is our messages. So I think it's a really actually a reflective questions of, if you're living a life and living a message to other people, what exactly is your message to other people, right? So and then that linked to the first episode that I had with you, and I think at that time I was reflecting a lot of kindness, and I would say that now my message will be, so at that time it was about just being kind, being being non-judgmental, but I think now I want to expand it to 3 keywords, and I try to think about how to, if there's one keyword can actually represent the other, but actually it's really really hard, and I think these 3 keywords are equally important to me. And these 3 keywords, so first of all is still the kindness, secondly is actually humble, and then the third one is brave. I think these 3 words, for example, humble for me represents being open up, being curious, being, knowing that we don't know everything. So, and brave means that acknowledge our vulnerability, acknowledge our, we're not perfect, or acknowledge that sometimes we need to stand up and speak about our, our feeling or a pushback and set out boundary. And kindness is about, being still being unjudgmental, the same as the first episode, being, trying to put ourselves into shoes of other people. And I think since last time our the first episode, my understanding of kindness has another level, because just asking ourselves to be kind, I feel like it's a one way of conversation. And if I can just to push a little bit more of, being kind, it shouldn't be just one person being kind to the other. It should be mutual. Kindness should be a mutual act. And to bring that into a very mutual conversation is that to be brave enough to tell the other person that, to give feedback that they are not being kind, and what is our what's our expectations, and what is our feeling, right? So I think one-sided kindness is also not enough. So yeah, we can elaborate a little bit about the three hashtags, and also, my deeper understanding of kindness as well.
Is that, that what like kindness is not a one-sided thing? Is it something you realized since September, or it's always the message you carried, but somehow you didn't speak about it last time?
I think um, it's something that I realized more after last September. And actually, I think so. In last September, because it was, in not in the well, not exactly in the beginning of COVID, but still a lot of people are still adjusting and still trying to understand what's going on and trying to understand our feeling and stuff. So, and I think at that time I didn't really understand the interactions of, the kindness, right? So being kind to other people, being empathetic, trying to understand other people's perspective is not enough. And I think being kind shouldn't be just stop there. It's also about sharing what do you think, sharing about, if you really kind, if you really care about the other person, give the person, a fair feedback, give them an opportunity to improve, let them know what's your true feeling, and then make the kindness a two ways interactions.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think you go like beyond kindness, and you say, if you're really kind, so you really care about the other person, so you are like you are honest with them, you are transparent with them, and being kind also implies being brave, speaking out, being humble. So yeah, no, super interesting. And just to come back on, okay, some of the hashtag, I think you've been reading them as well. But from
Yeah.
Shati, hi Shati, we have positive, leader, supporter. From Sachi, we have flower, emphasizer, super curious. From Ngan, we have openness, wholesomeness, influence. And from Melanie, philosophical, resourceful, can do plank for 5 minutes. So do you agree with everything? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I really like everyone's answer, and so far I think all of them are quite positive, and yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah, they're all
satisfied and
positive. They're all
happy.
positive.
So yeah, that's good.
Cool. And yeah, and another general question to kickstart this, and then we'll go deeper into every aspect. But could you share maybe, yeah, what are the main highlights in your life since September? I mean, there's so many, but if you had, to reflect back, so that's six, no, no, in the 8 months. So if you have to reflect back on the last 8 months, what would be the main highlights?
Right. So I think um My recent it's actually from my very recent memory. Okay, so actually there are two things. You know that I am a workaholic, and it's really really hard for me to pause and just to relax and really do things. Just lie down and watch Netflix. So I've been managed to do that for a while, and I think I've regained a lot of energy for doing things just that I don't usually do. And so that's like very very, for me personally, that's my highlight very recently. And another thing is that I have been in Bangkok since September, right? But I managed to I managed to go on a trip in Khon Kaen last month. I'm very very proud of myself, and I met a very amazing girl, Sachi. So we were connected by a friend's friend, and then the most amazing thing is that my friend met her in a random cafe in Okinawa. So and then she connected me with Sachi, and we spoke a bit, and I feel like okay, so let's see. Let me just take. So it was on. I think it was on a Sunday, Saturday, and I met Sachi online, and I told her, "Oh, how is Konkin? Like maybe I can just pay a visit to you." And then I think on the weekend I booked the flight, and then I just flew to Konkin and spent the most amazing weekend living with locals, trying to understand how they grow their food, make their own wine, or ferment their pickles, and also visited the market and really learn a lot from local people, understand their perspective of life. What do they think about the situation in Thailand? And the very interesting thing is that we stay with a person who has abundant knowledge of chemistry. So he taught us of a lot of indigo dyeing, but then at the same time, he would like construct his home into different places for workshop. And whenever I remember that, when it was super, super hot during the day, he will make his artificial rain to cool down the temperature. So everything that he does in his farm, in his family, he will always try to explain to us in a scientific way. So that's something I never expect to, when I went to a village in Thailand, a person will try to explain his daily life with science. So yeah, that's one of the most amazing highlights.
Cool, and I think Sachi is super happy to hear that. She's been trying to write a sentence, and now she's so overwhelmed with happiness. Um, okay, so I think yeah, it reminds me of a conversation we had when we mentioned about doing unproductive thing. So I guess you refer to that, what to balance a bit your workaholicness, and and yeah, conking is so nice. I think yeah, just a message for Sachi. Imagine over the last 7 months, the main highlight that she speaks about is a trip to Konkin. So congrats. Yeah, she was speaking about it the whole way. And she still keeps speaking about it. So yeah, I think it was such a I mean, thank you, Sachi, for taking care of Linka during that weekend. And yeah, I think, I mean, we've been speaking a bit about your philosophy. And so just to, okay, dive deeper into one of the aspects. So let's start with the Movers program. I mean, from my perspective, Movers is also a great platform, beyond everything that we do for us and you to also, share a bit about your philosophy about kindness, me about social gardening, but it's similar in some ways. But maybe for those who don't know, could you maybe re-explain what is Movers program in your own words? And also, why do you think it's important? And I add a third question: how do you relate the mission of Movers program to your own experience, to your own journey?
Right. Yeah. So in my own words, so of course, if you search Movers program, and which is highly recommended, you can go to Youth Collab movers, where you can find this official description of movers. But for me, movers, in my own words, are related to trust, are related to thinking about future. So let me break it down. So let's start with trust, right? And I think a lot of young people, a lot of you are listening. A lot of them are movers actually, and a lot of them who are not yet um, movers. So maybe these scenarios and situations that you will be able to relate is that, you know, when you want to, when there's an opportunity in front of you and you feel like you want to prove yourself that you can take this opportunity. It could be a job opportunity, or you know, that opportunity to work on a project, or any opportunity, right, that you feel like you want to grab it. But then at the same time, in order to do that, you need to prove yourself, right? But then it comes a chicken and egg question. If you don't have experience, how can you prove yourself in order to get that opportunity? But at the same time, you need this opportunity to gain more experience in order to prove yourself, right? So I think for movers program, we really trust, we put trust first. We trust everyone can can organize the online workshop, can facilitate, can bring people together, can work like a team, and can bring impact to people in your community, right? So I think, in my words, movers program is to make you to make young people not to be put into this dilemma of chicken and egg question situation, that you don't need to think about, which opportunity to go first or how do you prove yourself. The movers program is there, so you can do something in the movers program to build your experience. So next time when there's an opportunity coming up, you can say that I've brought movers community, the training of, for example, gender equality, climate change, SDGs, or leadership, etc., to my community, and it impacted hundreds of thousands of people. And that proves that I'm a person with commitment, person with I can take actions, and I am a good team player. I speak well. I can bring my message to many people, right? So that's movers program in my work, in my view, in terms of trust. And the second one is related to our thought of future, right? I think when we are at this, I mean, not we, I'm already at, maybe sometimes, most of the time, 10 years older than a lot of movers community members. But I always um, remind myself, what did I feel when I was, 18, 19, 20, and what did I wish for when I was at that age? How do I see my future? And I think, movers program is a place where we don't just focus on what is happening right now. We also think about our future together, right? Regardless is our training on, developing our entrepreneurial mindset or leadership skills, or talking about, again, gender equality, climate change, SDGs. All those things are related to our future, right? So I think movers is a program that really put ourselves, to develop ourselves into future, and also to reflect a bit about what is happening right now. How can we take actions right now so our future will be slightly better? So trust and future oriented. So
And
yeah,
I
I,
think it's
I can
fun.
see a lot of shout outs of movers.
Yes, a lot of shout out and a lot of more hashtag combination. So we have inspiring, energetic, power girl, inspiring, beautiful, and lively. So I agree as well. Oh, we have sunshine, hopeful, and giver first. And yes, keep them coming. And no, and to come back on what you said, I think it's super interesting because you mentioned trust and like future thinking, which are like two key topics from, I mean, in your life, right? Because I'm thinking when you mentioned you were in Hong Kong studying your master's, you were not sure what you will do in the future. And actually, you met randomly Freddy. So he's also one of the co-founder of Storius. So everything is linked, and we'll come back to that. But I remember you told him, I mean, he was, I don't know, facilitating a speaker at an event or something like this, and you came to him, you said, "Hey, bro." You didn't say, "Hey, bro," but you said, "Hi, sir. You are so inspiring. I want to support. I can volunteer. Let me know how can I help." And he could have asked, "What's your experience? What do you know? What to like? Who are you? What's your CV, etc." But he just gave you trust, so you could do things and prove yourself that you could do something. And yeah, he gave you this hand and he gave you trust. And so this doesn't come out of anywhere. It comes from your own
Mhm.
experience in Hong Kong where someone gave you trust, which empowered you down the road. And future thinking, again, I mean, not to recap all the first episode, but yeah, I mean, we spoke a lot about it. You always manage to, think 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, 3 days ahead. I mean, always ahead. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's interesting to see like we look at movers, and I don't know, yeah, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, it really comes down to your own personal experience that you discovered, and you try to give the shortcuts to other young people as well. Um, so I think it's super super cool, and yeah, good that you put words on that. And maybe just another question about movers. But okay, so quick question: Do you know? So for everyone's information, two numbers that we look at all the time is the number of participants reached and number of workshops. Do you remember in September how many participants did we reach in total with the movers program?
I would guess because we reached 5,000 in December, right? Or 6,000. I think in September, most likely we reach 3,000.
Yes, exactly. So it's
Oh,
3,000. Uh, 3,000, and right now it's around 11,000. So since
woo!
we first speak, I mean, it has grown three, four times. So yeah, just thinking about it, what would you say? Like, I mean, we celebrate small victories every day, and I wonder, like, what is your, I don't know, proudest moment ever since September, seeing the growth of movers, not only in terms of number, of course, but in terms of, everyone who's commenting, everyone who shows support, etc. What will be your main, yeah, thing that you're super proud about movers that you want to share?
Mm, I think there are many times, well, there are a lot of stories. So the proudest, well, there's no rank of the proud stories, but I think a few of them. So the first one is, that we have Lamea spoke at the closing remark of, regional climate promise dialogue, and a lot of people didn't see because it was webinar, so you won't see our face. But as a panelist, we were there, and I couldn't hold my tear. I was crying, and when I think about it, I want to cry now. I don't know why. I just feel so proud of that what we are doing now, what we've been doing. We harvest a very beautiful fruit of we let um, we have Lamea speaking in this important event with ambassadors, like those diplomats, right? And Lamea as a movers ambassador. And again, that's exactly how we say about movers program is about putting trust to young people first, right? We putting trust to Lamea. We trust that she will make the most amazing speech and represent the movers community. So that was a proud moment. The second proud moment was, when we had another onboarding call in March when I was doing it actually in Kongen, and we have Abdul shared his story, his journey as a movers during the onboarding call. Which, by the way, there will be another one next Friday. So um, and so what, the reason why there was another proud moment was that Abdul was the very first, the organic recruit of movers community, right? He doesn't know anyone from the movers community. A lot of movers members joined because of, they have a friends, they have a, peer in the organization. So then they check it out. But Abdul found movers program organically online, and then and not just that. I remember when I met Abdul in December when we were doing Movers 1 year anniversary, and he was trying to read a poem in front of us, amongst like core members of Movers community, right? I remember he was so nervous. He couldn't. I can tell his nervousness from his speech, and then it was not very the most fluent like poem reading speech. Sorry, it was a sharing. It's poem reading and then sharing afterwards. But then during the onboarding call, I was listening to Abdul's sharing. He was such an amazing speaker and storyteller at that time. He was so articulate, he's so confident, and I can see these transformative changes just within a couple of months. And the same story that I've heard, when I joined Movers China New Year reflection and celebrations evening, and I heard all of them sharing how much they've learned and grow through the Movers journey. And just last night, when I was just speaking with Nadia, because we were actually in a Storius meeting, but then she was there jumping in and help me facilitate, keep the conversation active and and vibrant. At the same time, I also remember when I first met Nadia, it was in APYE India, right? And I listened, I joined one of her breakout room, and because like, oh, there's a mover, let's see if the conversation is going on well. And I think at that time Nadia just joined movers community. So and then I went, and she was also very, very confused during APYE breakout room. So I asked her, can you try to facilitate the conversation? And she was not as confident at that time. But now I saw how much change and how much growth she had. And I think those, there's no one tiny, and there's no one largest moment of feeling proud. There's all this very, very amazing moments of feeling proud. And all of these are combining together and, motivate me, and I'm sure including you, for making the Movers program better.
Yeah, and I mean, coming back on trust, I think, because I know these stories as well. So just to add on, yeah, like Abdul, Nadia, Lameya, and everyone, we never ask them like, what is your SDG experience? What is your education? We just ask, what is your email address? Like, we don't ask anything like to just where we don't we don't ask anything. We're just here to give trust, give them the community and platform for them to be able, I mean, one platform so that they can take actions through this platform and meet people. And then they just build themselves, I would say. And yeah, again, I mean, it has been so beautiful to see the journey, and it's what makes us go on every day. And yeah, no, I think thank you for sharing these three super amazing stories. And how would you? That's linked to the impact that Movers program wants to have on youth, and it's linked to become future ready. But how would you put that into words? Like, what happened with Abdul? What happened with Lameya? What happened with Nadia? I mean, in what you have observed.
Right, and I think that's so that's if I put myself into shoes of movers, and I think I've been there as well. Every time that we're given trust that we can do something before we actually do it, it's actually very very scary, right? Imagine I can I imagine not imagine like I if I bring myself back to the first time I was on stage, facilitating a startup weekend, I was so nervous, and and then I don't know, like, if I will do well. I don't know what are people's expectations, things that in their heads that I can't control. But then and I also cannot control my feeling, and then also I remember, I was, in the early days when I just joined UNDP, and everyone was like commenting, oh, she's from this world of startup, she's having this and that experience, so she can do this and that very very well. So all this expectations is very very heavy, and it's very very scary, right? And I think before we finish it, we will always carry this fear. We will always feel like we're not ready enough. We're always fear that we didn't consider everything well, or didn't prepare it enough, right? So, and I think, but then things would change the moment everything finished. It was like, oh, it's actually not that scary. It's not as complicated as I thought. I can actually do it. So, and I think, all this transformative, you know, um, experience in our head actually happened right after the first workshop, where we actually do it. So, then the event is not, and all the feeling and emotion is actually in reality, right? It's actually not in our head. It's not we're not imagining if things will go wrong, if things will go well. So it becomes reality. And I think that's where, we know that it's not really that scary, and we can actually do it. So I think a lot of movers actually share this with us, that, after the first workshop, they realize that, oh, they can actually do it. They can speak in front of a lot of people. It's actually not that scary, and all this fear in our heads automatically go away. So yeah.
No, yeah, I think it's, I mean, so interesting. For me, it's a very, like, we speak a lot in our world, but more and more about, we say the word empowerment, right? Use empowerment. But the
Mm.
word empowerment is like leadership. It's like, we just say the word all the time and we tend to forget what it means. But I think what you said is a very, I mean, I would say it's a perfect definition of empowerment. Like, because, like what they did, um, what you mentioned, okay, I didn't know I could speak in public. I didn't know I could organize this workshop. I mean, we didn't train them for 1 year. They just they attended the workshop, they read some documents, but it's things they could already do before. I mean, they that it's power that they have already, and somehow it just got unlocked because they just tried it. And it reminds me, the two episode one with Ashley, where she mentioned she was sent to Sierra Leone to coordinate 30 volunteers who are older than her, and she's like, why why I why am I how am I supposed to do that? But her supervisor kept telling her, you can do it, I know. And she
Mm.
did it eventually. And then with Anne Laure from another episode, we were speaking about, actually, like, she's a facilitator, so she was speaking about her work, and her work is about empowering citizens. And she always says, we already have the power in us, but we need something to unlock it. We need something to reconnect with it. And yeah, I guess through movers, I mean, I say you, but I mean us and everyone here in also watching, it's what we try to do, right? To, yeah, make people reconnect with that power which
Mm.
is existing, but somehow we might have lost it along the way. And it comes back with the trust that people gives you around you. So yeah, I think it's a great definition of empowerment. And she had a question that I forgot along all of this, but it will come back. Um, But yeah, anyway, so I lost my transition here. That's so sad. Um, oh yeah, no, no, yeah, okay, it came back. Because you
Oh,
mentioned
great.
when you okay, let me share an example first, which I think I shared already on StreamYard with you with Xiaomi. When I just joined UNDP, after 2 weeks, you guys asked me to run a SDG workshop for 200 people, and I'm like, I don't know what are the SDGs. I just arrived. Oh my god! I was like, okay, um, and yeah, I understand what like how you feel, like all the expectations as well. When I arrived and I was tagged as a co-working space expert. I'm not at all a co-working space expert. I just worked in a co-working space like for 10 months, and then everyone tagged me oh yeah, he's a co-working space expert. Like so much pressure, you know. But then okay, you know where you're heading and you know what you have to deliver. And then people trust you. So like, okay, if people trust me, then you need to trust yourself as well.
Mm.
And so yeah, you mentioned you had this when you arrived at UNDP. I wonder, do you still have this? The fact that, oh, I'm not sure if I will be able to do it. And now with experience, do you manage to feel all the time that you are ready?
Um, I think I changed my perspective a little bit. So I think yeah, I saw Cici mention about imposter syndrome, and Sachi also asked a similar question. So I think for me, you know, earlier when I joined UNDP, I had a tremendous like imposter syndrome. Like in my head, I always ask myself, who am I? How come I deserve to be here? And you know, like I feel like um, among everyone in the same meeting table, I'm the person that I'm the only one that doesn't deserve to be on the same table with them, because the way they talk, and also it's very very different areas, right? That I feel for me in my head is that, oh, everyone graduated from political science, from international studies, from development studies, all these very very fancy things. But actually, I had no clue. Spent 5 years studying interpreting and translations. It was just like learning language, and also working in a startup, working in youth development in a way that, you know, running, organizing events and stuff. But like I remember the first time I heard, for example, theory of change. I heard MNE. I heard, you know, all like log frame, all these very very technical terms in the UN. I was so confused, and everyone seems very very confident with what they are talking about. So I question myself, if everyone sounds so confident with what they're talking, and then they can respond to each other, it must because the problem must be me. I am the one that, you know, not qualified, because I don't understand what they're talking about, and I don't know how to respond to their questions. So and then so then I started to question myself, who am I, what qualifications do I have? And and I think I had a conversation with Savi, which is a very, if you listen to the first episode, you will hear that, yeah, he's a very important person in my life, very very good, you know, person who mentored me a lot. So I had a conversation with Savi and shared about with him about, you know, I don't feel like I am the one to, I should be here. I should be the person, you know, working in this and that. And you know what? We always talk about there are 700 millions of young people, right? And in UNDP is it's we're working a youth team, and we are, you know, helping this 700 millions of young people. So very concretely, the question in my head is like, who am I to, you know, to help or to even speak on behalf of 700 millions of young people? So I always so scared about this. Like I created so many scenarios in my head. And then I had a chat with Savi, and And I think he asked me this question that, so do you rather someone else to do this, someone else that maybe they don't care enough, and then he say that you are here because of, it must because of reasons, regardless of what reasons you are here, because of there are reasons for you to be here. So maybe you don't know the reason now, but they are reasons that you deserve to be here, right? So and I think now I started to think about this think about this from another perspective, right? Because I feel like when I was having imposter syndrome, when I was feeling not qualified enough, I was thinking about just my personal insecurity. I was only focusing on my personal feeling, right? And then I let that feeling impact me and influence me. But then now I don't have that as much as before, was because now I see it from this perspective. It's not about me. I'm here because I'm representing a group of young people. I'm here because of other people. It's nothing to do with me. My security, insecurity, my feeling doesn't count. And what I can do is that if I am chosen to be here instead of other people, I just focus on doing my best, and and imagine that someone else who really doesn't care took this spot. If, because the thing is that if it wasn't me, it will be someone else, right? Imagine that is someone else who doesn't really care, who just came because fancy UN title. What would happen, right? So I'm here, and um, and it's not just about feeling I'm qualified or not, and it's time to remove this feeling. It's time to remove the perspective of focusing of me, but really thinking about the people that that I'm trying to reach out, the people that I'm trying to help. So I think that's how I try to deal with my imposter syndrome, because when I'm having imposter syndrome, I would just try to ask myself, like, am I carrying myself too much? Am I caring about my personal either ego or either the face issue too much? That's why I'm having imposter syndrome. Am I really putting my focus attention to to things beyond my feeling, to the larger cause?
And yeah, also if it's interesting how you reversed everything, and also if you reversed, like you mentioned when you arrived, you're like, oh, everyone comes from I don't know the name of the university. Like I guess I don't know, Oxford, Harvard, like this kind of, of uni where they study development. Um, and yeah, I think the beautiful side is also like you're not defined by what you study during your bachelor and masters, and that's also um, wait, I have the word in French, but that's also, yeah. Hello to Sisi. I know she cares a lot about the sentence and statement as well. But yeah, you're not defined by what you study, but more by your action,
Mm.
and that's how. I mean, you mentioned right in the first episode how you arrive at the UN. You arrived here because you were more prepared than everyone, because you took action, because you met people, because you are not waiting for opportunities to come, but you grab the opportunities yourself. And you're here because it's a consequence of your own actions. So for me, that's a beautiful part of it as well. Even if, yeah, it's like, um, but yeah, if we turn it around, and you know that in our movers leadership workshop, we also try to turn things around in the empowering belief, limiting belief section. And, um, and yeah, I think, I mean, super interesting. Yeah, it's like how imposter syndrome comes from yourself. And yeah, basically, you just try to see the bigger picture. And if not me, who else? And if the who else care more about me, no, not more about me, more than me about what I'm doing right now. So yeah, hope it gives you some clues. Forgot what was the question. Oh yeah, Sachi, and too many comments. I cannot find anyway. But yeah, I think also on that, I know Savi, he sent us a question. He wanted to highlight the fact that actually, so the whole UNDP Asia Pacific building, do you know how many people are there? I don't know actually.
I think roughly 200 to 300 for
Okay. So
UNDP.
hundreds
Yeah.
of people there, UNDP, and you were hired as one of the youngest consultants in the building, as a young woman with no development studies background. And that's impressive. And I think Savi wanted to highlight this to everyone that you were hired as one of the youngest maybe the youngest one in the whole UNDP Asia Pacific. And yeah, so Savi's question is, what is your advice for young girls who are keen to join the development world to make a difference? Maybe reflecting on
Mm,
your own experience joining as the youngest woman. I mean, youngest person, but also youngest woman of UNDP.
right. Yeah, I think I can only speak from my experience. So as I've already mentioned in the previous answer, of course, like a lot of imposter syndrome feeling. So, but in addition to that, I think there are a few things that I want to highlight from my experience. So, the first thing is that a lot of I observe a lot of people came in to work in the UN from based on different kind of motivations. Some people think that it's UN, it's a very fancy title and a very decent working environment. And I think now I still get a lot of questions of how do I work in UN, right? And then I usually follow up with a question like, why do you want to work in the UN? What cause? You know, what kind of fire do you have? In a way that you want to contribute. You're passionate about what's in your fire. Oh, wait, what fire is in your heart? And you get my point. you know, something around that. So, what exactly is the cause that you want to contribute? That you want to play a role in it? Because there are different SDGs, and in different SDGs, there are also uh, different different groups, different teams in UN working on different things, right? So I think it's really about finding the true cause of why you are doing what you are doing, and not more than just it's a fancy title, it's amazing working environment in the sense of like very bright office table and everything. So I think that's my first suggestions. That it's not it's really about the bigger causes of why you are working and in the UN, and it matters a lot, because you constantly need to remind yourself why you are working in the UN, because honestly there are a lot of things that are really hard to understand, and when we don't understand something, it becomes very, very frustrating. And sometimes we don't understand why certain procedure, bureaucracy, or sometimes things that just we don't understand why human behave in a certain way, right? And then the reason why we don't understand a lot of things will also frustrate us. So we need to keep reminding ourselves of why we're there. The second thing is actually to understand, because if we are starting actually if you're starting in your career in a large working environment, sometimes it's a little bit too scary, and that's where you actually set your a benchmark of the work environment should be like that. And so my suggestion is that try to understand different working environment. Don't see one organization as the ultimate um, answer or the benchmark of everything, and try to understand the working environment. And then you also need to set your boundary, and and to voice out whenever you feel uncomfortable, whenever you feel like things that make you feel unsafe. And but then that's easier to say than done, right? So it's very important to build your own support system and really find people that you feel like you can trust and find the people who share the same value. So if you use, for example, Lifeline as a way to filter people, like how you can trust a person or how you want to interact with the person. Try to think about each one of individuals has their life is their message, and what message are they giving to people around us, right? So that's the second one, to set your boundary and always don't take answers for granted. The third thing is actually to be thankful and appreciative in a way that I think when I just joined UN, and there are a lot of things that it's overwhelming. It's really hard to comprehend, to understand. But what keeps me going all the time is this feeling of thankfulness. That I appreciate a lot of things around me, and people's their their efforts and everything, and all the support that I can get, and all the opportunity that comes to me. So be thankful and appreciative of people and effort around us. And yeah, I think sorry, one more thing that I always share, because I think it's very, for me, it might be more suitable to girls who grew up in a more traditional Asian cultures. Of course, it doesn't fit in for everyone. I might be stereotyping, but just in general, I think it's okay to be very, very proactive. It's okay to be proactive. You don't need to wait and sit and for things to come to you. It's okay to be proactive, to look for opportunity, to offer help, to mention your opinion. So I think maybe it's not. I don't know if it's gender related or culture related, but I just want to say that it's our job to reach out, to be proactive, and how the other person will respond to us. That's their task, right? Sometimes we might feel like, oh, am I disturbing this person too much? Am I troubling this person too much? And we don't know, before we reach out, we don't know the boundary of this person, and it's for this person to let us know their boundary. But if we don't reach out, maybe we lose opportunity of we might we might get, right? So it's okay to reach out, it's okay to be proactive.
And yeah, I think that's also great advice for life in general, not only for young women who wants to work at UNDP, but for everyone, for your life in general. I think thank you so much for sharing that. And no, again, I mean, it comes down to your, I think I will say that a lot today, but it comes down to your own journey, right? I mean, it's not random comments, not random advice. The last point, I know it's linked to your time in Guangzhou at university. I know your parents were like, "Why are you volunteering so much? Why are you going there, ISEC, etc." But it's ultimately what shapes the rest of your journey. And to come back on the fire, like, what's your fire in your heart? Something like this. um, yeah, I think I remember my first day or second day, you and Cynthia, you brought me into this like super dark and small room, and you asked me, yeah, think about how can well like think about like what are your goals in life? How can the work you do now also help you to achieve these goals? And yeah, I think it's a very important question for our team in general, and I mean to ask yourself as well, like what I if we come back to the question, like, do you want to join the UN just because you want to update your LinkedIn profile? Are you joining the UN for a bigger cause? Things that are two, and it sounds so simple like this, but if we say that, we say that for a reason. and um, and yeah, on the fire, I mean, obviously, one of your fire, Linka, is around youth empowerment, but I know you have so many other fires in your heart. Um, would you like to share what are the other fires?
Okay. I think for now, what I'm doing apart from movers and yeah, so I've also started a startup together with uh, two of the other co-founders. That I met them in Hong Kong, and so what we are doing is to. Okay, so maybe let me start with a story. And I always told this story because it's related to the fire that I'm doing with this startup. So I've been living in Bangkok for since 2016, and I've been living here for 4 years, and I like to show people around. When I first came here, and there was during weekend, and Savi offered like a temple, what we call temple run, just to go to different temples in Bangkok and just to learn about, because he has a Buddhism degree, so he can really tell a lot of stories about the feature of this sculpture of Buddha is because of, indicates this meaning and that meaning. And we've done like 3 or 4 temples in one day. And then we took boats across Chao Phraya River, and a very very authentic Thai experience. I've learned so much about temple, right? And I really feel connected with those temple. It's And I feel like whenever I went back, I can always see those different features of Buddha, and always understand what's going on. And so I really love that experience. And I hosted two couch surfing friends. One is from Germany, one is from Chile, and we spent a weekend together, and we went to the Grand Palace. So the Grand Palace is probably the one of the most expensive temple in Thailand. So far, I have never encountered another temple cost more than the Grand Palace. So um, the ticket price is 500 Thai baht, and then I remember when I went there, and we happened to have a English like official tour guide, and he showed us around, and he talked a lot about for example, this part of the Grand Palace. It has like a model of like, for example, the sculpture of two figures from Taoism in China. And then another corner, it has a door which is decorated by Chinese tea porcelain from China, which indicates the trade between Kingdom of Siam and China during that time, right? So and then it was in the Grand Palace. I also overheard another group of tour who from China, and then the group of people, the tour guide was talking in Grand Palace, in front of the sculpture, in front of the painting of Ramakien, which is a very very very, it's like a legend of Thai, in Thailand. So it's like very similar to Ramayana, to Indian culture, right? So in front of that painting, they were talking about jasmine rice. And I was so confused. And at that time, I was also feeling very, very angry. The reason why I was feeling angry was that I know, people from China, they usually have around 5 to 10 days annual leave. And then they spend those days sitting in the bus, going from one place to another place in Thailand, just to take a picture in the Grand Palace, where the ticket cost 500 baht, listen to jasmine rice of Thailand. So, and I feel so angry for those group of Chinese tourists. So this is the stories I always remember, remind myself why we're doing Storius. So that's exactly, so basically what Storius is trying to do. So Storius can be understood in two ways. It's story of us and stories for curious people. So what we are trying to do is that if you're traveling, or if you're just walking in a random corner in any places in the world, imagine there's a map, and right next to that map there's a pin which indicates that there's a recorded audio for you to listen to, you know, the meaning of these places. So imagine that in the Grand Palace, instead of listening to jasmine rice in Thailand, I can actually listen to the story of the history, the story of Grand Palace, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to do through Storius, and we've registered a company in Hong Kong since last September, exactly since last time we've talked. So now we've collected more than 700 stories from nearly 20 countries. So we want to, you know, bring the meaningful experience for people when they are traveling to a new places. So yeah, and let's see if Dinglong is back with us. If not, I can keep talking about stories. Okay, maybe not. Let me continue. Um, so so for Storius right now, we have a team of 3 co-founders. We have a team of 3 operations managers, and we have you know, around nearly 50 interns in the team that's working on, for example, marketing, product development, etc., etc. So and we've been working remotely since last September. Mm, all right, I think Dinglong is back.
Oh God, I lost all my internet. But yeah, I'm back. I could I could just understand that you had time to share about your story in the temple and with Savi, and then I heard one sentence about Chinese people who don't do anything in the bus, and and then yeah, I heard that you started to introduce about Storius. Cool. And
Yes.
yeah, so I think yeah, it's so one of the question of Swan was that I interviewed as well is why is it important for you to highlight and yeah to share all these local stories? But I mean I think you shared about it already, but I couldn't hear. I will hear my own recording. um, but yeah, no, I think yeah that's I wonder is it the like the story you mentioned is it something that you've been thinking about for a long time? Like I wonder about the start of Storius. Like I know, is it something that you that particular problem that you want to address? Is it something that you were thinking about before, or that you carried with you before? Is it something that came with Storius and that you realized with
Mm.
Storius?
Yeah, I think for me it's so ever since I've been living in Thailand, I've been trying to find a way to introduce Thai culture to Chinese people. So there's a very funny video of me, you know, trying to repeat the full name of Bangkok, which has you know, the world record of having the longest name in the world, the longest city name in the world. And I was shooting that video at the top of Wat Saket. So it's a temple in the old town of Thailand, and from it's actually built in a mountain, but the mountain was actually an artificial mountain. So basically I was like trying to because I find it very, very interesting, you know, like all this meaningful things behind all those places, but if you don't know about it, it's you can't actually search for it, you know. And because I don't know, maybe it's some of the information are not available in Chinese, and then some of those information, if you don't know Thai, you actually don't know how to look for it, right? So I've been trying to do that for by myself. Actually share something on my WeChat public page, but then I think story is actually something that I enjoy doing in my free time. You know, sharing about culture and stuff. And whenever I have friends visit me in Bangkok, I always tell them, the history of Bangkok, history of Thailand. Most of them from China. And what I noticed that at the end of the day, they will always buy me a very, very fancy meal because they just feel so happy. It happens so many times because like a lot of them are like they work in Baidu, they work in TikTok, they work in all these like Chinese like very like tech companies, and they earn a decent amount of money, right? And then they spend their holiday in Thailand, and then they say that they never know this part of Thailand if I wasn't there and telling them. And actually their original plan was to go to a shopping mall, have some dessert, and do some massage, and that's it. I brought them to different places and tell them about different things. So I noticed that level of satisfaction and fulfillment, it's beyond measure. I mean, it could be measurable given that all of them treat me super fancy dinners. Maybe that's the way that how satisfied and how happy they feel, right? So yeah, back to the question of the idea of Storius. So I've always asked myself this question as well. If I'm not working in UNDP, if I'm not working in Youth Collab, what are the things that I really want to spend my time and contribute to? And I think tourism, tourism, I invented this word, empathy tourism, that it's something that I really want to work on. And in a way that, it's not the hierarchy between visitors and local people is not like local people are serving the tourists, right? And then the visitors are there to consume whatever the local community has. But it should be equal, or it should be it should be mutually equal among each other, with empathy, with thinking about how can I also give back to the community, how can I interact with the community. Yeah. Okay, so I think, all right, let me continue sharing about Storius. So yeah, so I think that's something, for those of you who are listening, I don't know if you also have very, very similar moments that when you're traveling, we're going to places, you have the most amazing experience when you have your local people, bring you to eat the most authentic food, and then share with you their, daily life, how people usually, what do they usually do? What do they value in life? I remember whenever I went to, for example, Bangladesh, I think a lot of you are from Bangladesh in this conversation. I always feel so connected because I always travel with local friends. They will always tell me, people in Bangladesh, they do this and that and this time of the day, and how they, make a living through things that they're doing. And I've also been to a community between the border of Bangladesh and India called Manipur, and I stayed there with local people for nearly 1 week, trying to understand, what's the life there. It's very, very peaceful environment. I joined their funeral. It's a very, very interesting experience as well, because in the funeral there are music performances, and which is very similar to the funeral I had in my hometown, and it brings a lot of connections when I was traveling, and I think so. Back to the topic of empathy tourism, the reason why I think that is very, very important, it actually it's from the experience I had when I was, traveling to a lot of places because of my work. And whenever I travel, because I travel to a lot of places where a lot of people don't usually go if they pick a travel destinations, right? A lot of, so I've been to Pakistan, I've been to Bangladesh, been to India. I mean, there some of them are tourism destinations. I've been to Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands. So what I meant is that it's not like the world famous tourism destinations, right? So and then a lot of places before I went, many people will give me this note of, oh, you need to pay attention to your belongings. You don't need, you need to pay attention to, interacting too much with local people because of this incident and that incident, or this and that, right? So there are a lot of stereotyping and generalizing of based on like very negative media stuff. So when I went, for example, let me just give you an example. When I went to, before I went to Solomon Islands, a lot of people asked me to be very, very careful because, people will rob you on the streets, people will take away your belongings, they will just, that any moment on the streets you might get hurt, right? But when I went there, I noticed that everyone is so welcoming in a way that I understand why it gets scary, right? Because when I was in Solomon Islands, everyone just want to ask me, am I how am I? Am I single? Am I married? So, and then when they ask question, there's no social distancing. They will try to, look at you in a very like staring at you. So it could be scary in the sense that maybe you will think about, oh, why they're asking these questions. Are they planning to, to see if I am alone? So then they will, they're planning something in their head, but actually it's not. They're just very, very curious, and everyone is like that. And that's just how the culture and how people there, their usual behavior. So so yeah. So I think, so for me, empathy tourism is really about when you go to a places, you don't think about, oh, people should behave this way and that way. You actually get rid of your expectations and stereotype thoughts in your head, and you go there without expectations, just to understand what's going on in your destinations. Yeah, and welcome back, Ding Long.
Thank you. Actually, I was thinking I could do a Lifeline Part 3 with Linka. I just launched the live, I put you there, and I leave. I think you do well without me. But no, but actually, that's perfect. It's actually exactly what I wanted to speak about, to like dig a bit more around your experience, because it comes from your experience welcoming your friends in Thailand, but also your experience traveling. And I know you hate traveling to mainstream places. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I think I really loved the sentence yet you said, like, you need to explore the world as a baby. So have no judgment, just go there, have no expectations, just play around. And maybe, like if we take again the example of your Chinese friend, maybe the only thing they know about Thailand is the big malls, and they just arrive, they have the expectation of the malls, right? But with Storius, they can get to know a bit more before and during and after as well. And yeah, actually, I know you have a lot of stories. So you shared about the one in Fiji. I know you have a lot of stories, travel stories. So yeah, I let you. Yeah, could you share a few more with us?
Yes. And yeah, so before that, I just want to clarify that I couldn't take the credit of travel like baby, because that's actually Tilt concept. So Till is another very important mentor of my life. If you search Till TEDx travel like baby, you will find his talk. So yeah, so back to the best traveling experience. Let me think. Um, there are so many, but I think most of them are, the experience that, when I came with no expectations, and I really stay and live with local people. Let me try to think about. So I share a little bit about, that I stay in at the border between Bangladesh and India in a village called Manipur, and I went there. And the most amazing part of that experience was that there was only 2G data, 2G signal. It's not even 3G or 4G, so it's either none or 2G signal for me. And and I really was there. Like I was 100% present because I have nowhere else to go. There was no signal, and I was just like enjoying everything. And the thing is that I stay with the local people, and they didn't actually plan anything for me. The plan was just to do whatever they're doing for the day, and it just happened that the day I arrived, someone passed away, and so they invited me to the funeral, and I was sitting there together with all the local people, and they served me the food the way as they serve everyone else, and I was sitting there, doesn't understand anything they were talking, and they were like music performances, they were like ceremonies and rituals, that you have to go to a stage thing and then give your wish to the family member of people who passed away. And I think the next day, and we went to visit all the village members because I stay with the head of village, and he always like just visit them and ask them, oh, how's your life, how's everything. And I just went to different houses, and I have no clue what happened. Everything is in local language. And I went to a local market. It was very, very, very eye-opening because a lot of things that I can't recognize, a lot of like agricultural products, I have no clue what they are. And then the next day we went to a tea plantation, like a huge field of tea leaves, and to see different kinds of tea leaves and stuff. So yeah, like I think that's one of the most very, very local experience that I had. And I really like when I'm traveling is not, it's not how to say, it's not places where that are just lying there. And I mean, that's one way of traveling, right? But for me, my style is really to feel connected with local people and try to observe and see what they're doing.
And we'll come back on Storius after that, but I wonder, I think you mentioned that a bit with Konkin. I think about both connecting with the locals and also being disconnected and in the moment. You mentioned only 2G. Do you manage to recreate this kind of atmosphere in your daily life? Or is it something you are looking to recreate in your life in Bangkok? Or is it something
Like,
you look for only when traveling?
yeah, and I think I don't do it very often in Bangkok. Like, as much as I tried, I just took a lot of city life for granted. Like, I would, if I'm when I'm traveling, I would try to speak to as many people as possible. But sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time in Bangkok, I'm just so unmotivated to speak. For example, all the drivers or all the people on the streets. So I don't think that's something that I would do. If when I'm living in Bangkok for too long, I just lost that motivation of talking to people and feel connected, and yeah, and I think that's. I've heard it from some of the podcasts that if if you change, for example, if you go traveling, or if you so it's a podcast about New Year resolution. Like we the chances are higher if we feel like there's a fresh start that we will change our behavior. So like for example, during New Year, people have more hope that they will change their behavior. During birthday, people feel like they will change their behavior. That's because that they see it as a new start. And I think same with traveling. When we're traveling, or the first day we came back, most of the time we have more higher hope of, we will change a certain behavior because we see that as a new start. And I don't apply that as much as, when I'm living in Bangkok, which I should. That's a very good reminder.
I think that's
So yeah.
interesting. I guess it depends. What is the time frame or what are the milestone of the fresh start? Because you could tell
Mm.
yourself also every day is a fresh start, but we don't. But it could be no. I mean, we had this conversation already, but around yeah, I think it's super interesting. Yeah, how I mean, if it because I just reflect if that's something you and also me will really enjoy when traveling for a short time. We know it's a fresh start. We don't have much time. We have to enjoy as much as possible. I guess the challenge, how can you bring that into your daily life if it's really something that makes you enjoy life? How can you bring that into your daily life? I think that's maybe via stories.
Yay.
But yeah, so I think back to Storius, could you share how was the first day of Storius? What was there a first day? How did you decide with Steele and Freddie to start Storius? Was there anyone else involved? And what was the first official day?
The first official day I would say is 28th of September. That's when we have the form, the document of registration. But then really the unofficial start date is really really hard to 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 define now, because the stories of Storius is actually so I think it was last year in March, and Till and Freddie, they were just having some friends gathering and having some like um, drinking and stuff, and then they were talking about it was the starting the first month of lockdown, right? And both of them has their business are really just purely by the offline training, like workshop and with interaction with students. So they were actually not doing a lot of things. And they were talking about this idea. And in the beginning, I was on board as not as one of the co-founders. In the beginning, they were just bringing a group of, I remember, almost 10 people to try to say that, oh, can you try to record a story and see if this idea would work. And I was one of the person, being, it's more like, imagine that they're doing this design thinking workshop and I was just one of the participants, right? I'm not part of the organizing team. But then throughout and then I think at one point Till asked me if I want to join as one of the co-founders, and I think that's aligned with what I've been spending time on, and what I'm very very passionate about. So yeah, that's how I joined Storius team. And each one of us, we all have different our own story of why we are doing Storius. And if you ask Freddie why they started Storius, it will be very very different from my story of tourist in Bangkok and sitting in the bus. So we all have our own version of story of our own story of stories.
Did you want at that time before like Till asked you, did you expect or want to have a bigger role in Storius? And then when he asked you, did you say yes like immediately?
Hmm. Um, if Yeah, I think actually at that time when I was like as a participant of that workshop, like different meetings, I felt like that's something that I really, really enjoy and I'm just passionate about. I could be like one of the most active contributor in those meetings. So I think when Till reached out, it felt like, oh, I felt like that was happening. And yeah, and I think I've always wanted to, so even though I had like community building in startup ecosystem, and I worked in ICE before, but really to start uh, a startup, not like just an organization, but really a startup, that's something that I've been looking for as well, because I really want to see how I can apply my experience to really build a startup.
What did, because I put myself in your shoes. We have Anahita who just joined. Hi, Anahita. Um, so it's when did he ask? It was September also.
I think it was May, June. I don't remember.
Okay, so we are May, June last year. You're already so busy with UNDP. No, because I get like you work so a lot already. So I put myself in your shoes, like you know, what goes through your mind? Do you ask yourself, "Oh, will I have time for this?" Or might it threaten my friendship with Steele and Freddie? No, well, what are some things that you ask yourself when like as you take the decision, or was it really super easy to take this decision?
mm, I think it's the same process that I always do when I have to make a decision. That I always ask my future self for opinion. So basically, um, this like mental model, or this thought process, is that whenever I have to make a decision at current stage of life, I would try to put myself into the shoes of myself in 10 years, in 20 years, when I'm 80. So I will ask my future self, is this something that you think that I should do? And would you feel proud of me if I'm doing this now? How would you tell your story at that point if I say yes now? So is this something that, so it's also my way of when I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling confused, when I'm feeling different emotions, I will also ask my future self, is this temporary? If I, whatever I'm doing, if I'm overwhelmed with work and stuff right now, but would this benefit you, the you in the future, like you as myself in the future? So yeah, so yes, and Nahita also feel the same. So yeah, I always think about this, what story that I want my future self to tell other people in the in to advise my current self.
And but then I guess so yeah, first it's interesting. It's like the third person perspective, as you mentioned last time, in the future. So not in the present, but some yourself that you speak to in the future. And but then I guess so you speak with 80 years old Linka who tells you go for it. And then this is enough for you to, I mean, enough. It's goes beyond. So it's like, okay, 80-year-old Linka tells me to go for it. I will make it work, and I don't care. Like I don't have much time, etc. Something like this.
Mm, yeah, I think something like that. And yeah, and I agree with the time and overworking. That's the issue that I'm still working on. Um, but I always feel like if I want, I can always find time, but that's not true. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed with work, and so I learned a couple of things of time management and everything. But then I think at that point when I was saying yes, even though like I was working, I realized my weekend was free, and also because we're usually like it was locked down, so we're just staying at home during weekends. So I was okay. So the thing is that when I think back at that time, we were also we just saw Storius as a pet project. So actually, three of us, we were saying that, oh, we're only going to spend 1 day per week for Storius, but of course it's not true. And now it's almost feel like another full-time commitment. So so yeah I was the hardest part actually last year when I was doing Storius and everything at the same time was that I also promised myself that I would read 35 books last year, and I made that promise at the beginning of the year without knowing that at the end of the year I'll be so busy. So almost no I only finished 34 books last year, and I finished. So the last one, the 35th book, I still have 20 pages when the 12 a.m. clock hit. So I'm like, oh, I didn't finish it. So I finished the remaining 20 pages the next day. So I finished my 35 books challenge on the first day of 2021.
You were reading when it was midnight, or
Yeah, because I really want to see if I can finish it. So so the story
okay.
was actually sorry.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
So the story was actually on 31st evening, and I was with Emily, who is one of the operations managers of Storius, and I think that was around 9 p.m. and I realized I still have around 60 pages to finish my last book. So I told Emily, like, give me 2 hours. Don't talk to me, or like not don't talk to me. I tell her that I won't be able to respond to her if she speaks. And then so I spent 2 hours trying to finish the book, but then I only finished another 40 pages, and I still have 20 pages. But then it was almost the time we need to go to a rooftop to see the fireworks. So yeah, so I didn't finish. I still have 20 pages remained on the 31st of December.
But do you see it as like a big failure, or don't really care?
No, I think I'm still very proud of myself.
Okay. Okay. No, no. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, because 34 books and almost 35, it's a big. I mean, it's a lot. But I just wondered if how you feel about it. Anyway, yeah, no. I think I mean, I found it super interesting for me to understand how you took the decision to be more involved, become a co-founder, because I think there's so many conversation about how to find your co-founders, etc., etc. And I think on the other side as well, like when you've been working on a project and someone asks you to become a co-founder, I think could happen to people. I think it's interesting to understand a bit the thinking process. But yeah, so you mentioned you saw Storius as pet project, now not anymore. So yeah, like just to conclude Storius chapter, like where is Storius at right now? What is the progress so far? And I think Omer had a question like, what is your best memory with Storius to date?
Right. Okay, so I think I shared a little bit while I was monologuing the progress
Oops.
of
Okay,
story.
okay. So you can share
Uh,
Omer's question directly.
all right. Yeah, the best moment of working in Storius. I think um, I think it's the best part is when we share some of the clips with other people, and we share the idea of Stories. A lot of people gave us this validation of that's exactly uh, that's exactly what we've been looking for. That's a brilliant idea. That's something that I would definitely want to use it. And that's a similar. I have very very similar challenges before, and I think many of you who are listening, I'm sure you have this moment when you pass by a very interesting building, you try to look it up, either on Google Map or Google, but it's really, really hard to look for a lot of interesting information beyond just the name, or it takes a lot of time, Okay, I'm in a taxi and suddenly there's this colorful building next to me. And okay, let me take up the Google Map. Oh, oops. Already so far away. So where exactly is that place? And then okay, maybe this is the place. Let me click. Okay, this building looks the same in the Google Map. Okay, so let me read a bit about what is going on in this place. Right. So all this very, very lengthy process. But then exactly what Storius is trying to do is that you don't have to go through that. You just open it, the map, and then you listen to the stories. And one thing that I also want to highlight is that, when we travel, most of the time we hear very, very objective facts of, this building was built in 1996 and it has like 10 floors, and it's painted in white and yellow color, those kind of things, right? Sometimes I don't understand, like, those kind of information, great, so what? But then imagine that you can hear a story of people who used to live here and how they, this place is a very, very meaningful location to them. Yeah, that's something that we really look forward to, to see those spark in people's eyes. Yeah, I think the best moment of working in Storius is, really believing in, and everyone in the team really believing in what we are doing can really make changes.
And did you submit a story yourself
Yes, a lot.
about
Not a lot,
Sia-
but not bad.
did
Yes.
you share one about Xiamen?
Yes, I shared, and it's for me, I really enjoy it because when I was doing the stories, and when I was, trying to write a few stories about my hometown, it's not Xiamen, actually, it's my village, and I have to ask my parents a lot of questions, and then they feel like, why do you suddenly feel so interested about this very, very particular details? So like a particular food that's very, very similar to, I don't know, in Vietnamese, but in Hokkien it's called bo piang. It's like a very, very thin wrap, and then you wrap the veggies and rice together, and it's like a spring roll, but it's not fried. It's just and then you eat it, right? Like very, very particular details of what exactly is in that rice. Do you put this and that in that rice, and what's the ingredients, and do you use and there are different versions, right? If you're in the city, you put peanut powder, but if you're in the village, you don't put that, right? You put different things. So and then so very, very particular details. And for them, for me, I really love it because I feel like I'm connected with my parents in this way, connected with my root culture, and then I also feel like it gives them a sense of pride that, we get to share a bit about our local culture and stuff. So I also encourage my mom to record a few stories of my hometown. Yeah.
So if we want to hear the story, we should go to Storius app, right?
Yes. So Nadia already shared the link in the Facebook comment area, so you can follow our Facebook. So we are currently collecting stories from all over the world. If you are interested to be our storyteller, please go to our website or drop us a message, let us know, and apply to be a storyteller. And we are going to launch our mobile applications very soon, so you will be able to enjoy all the stories that we've now collected. And we look forward to, to share your story, to share the story of your cultures. Yeah. So if you are interested to know more about Storius, you can visit the link that Nadia shared in the Facebook comments, or you can go to storius.app.
Cool. And any just random question, any missing city that you really hope to have that
Yeah, I think just to maybe see who we are in the conversation now. I think we hope to have stories from Kongen. We hope to have stories from Iran, stories from Cambodia, stories from let me go through the content. Yeah, a lot of we have a lot of stories from Bangladesh. We have stories from Pakistan. We have stories from Bangkok or Thailand, and yeah, so but we're still look for more. Even one places, right? We there are different perspective of understanding a places. Imagine a restaurant. Some of us will talk about a very specific kind of dish. Some of us will talk about the story of the owners, right? Why they want to open this restaurant and what happened to them. Some of us will probably talk about different aspects of the locations of this restaurant. So yeah, we always look forward to hear different perspective of a place So that's also where things that we're doing very very different from traditional tourism, right? Because when you go to a place, if you listen to official explanation, there's only one dimension that you can do to learn about a place. But if you can listen to different stories, you have this multidimensional perspective of one place.
cool. So everyone like the page here. And yeah, share your stories from Iran, Cambodia. I will not quote names, but from Iran and Cambodia. And cool, yeah, before yeah, just we move on. I know you have notes. I just wonder if we covered everything that you wanted to speak about so far, or
Mm,
anything else that you want to add around movers, stories, or anything else?
yes, I have. I think there are 2 to 3 things that I hope to share. Um, okay, so the first thing is that I recently started this mental checklist of self acceptance. So basically, at the end of the day, or well, any given time of the day, I will ask myself, do I get to know myself a little bit more? Because I think this question, um, this question kind of get rid of the assumption that we always know who we are as a person. And I think in different situation, different scenario, that we would know ourselves a little bit more, right? So if I don't, for example, go to a place, I would never know if I really like that or not. So just a very random example, like if I didn't know that I'm a person that need a balcony. If I didn't go to a lot of places to check, like different apartments to check, right? So I didn't know that. But then when I put myself into that perspective, I know that, oh, I am the person that when I'm my living space, I need a balcony. So those are not a very very like deep or fancy stuff, but that's something new I learned about myself. So that's item number one on my checklist. Number two is that do I accept myself as a whole? As in, do I understand that I have shortcomings? Do I understand that what I'm good at? And but then, do I accept myself as a whole? Accept my things that I'm not good at, things I'm good at. Do I accept that? And the last thing is that, no, sorry, the third thing is that um, like I think we all have things that we are naturally good at, things that we're not. Have I tried to improve myself? On the Of course, on the conditions that I accept of myself who I am. It's not like I am improving myself because I'm not satisfied with myself, but have I tried to improve myself a little bit? And then the last thing on my checklist is that have I told myself that I love myself today? Not told myself as like a self monologue, but told myself in a way that have I spent time to exercise? Have I spent time to have self talk in my head? And that relates to the second thing I want to share is that, when we are not looking for noises of, digital screen, noises of things, situations happen around me. When there are no noises, when we are not looking for noises, when the whole world is quiet, pay attention and also be aware of, what do we tell ourselves, when we're having our self conversation in our head. The message or the conversation we're telling ourselves, is it positive or is it negative? And if it's not what you want, can you try to facilitate yourself, and then try to see if you can have different directions of the conversation. And the last thing that I want to share is actually related to okay, I promise this last thing. The last is it's my recent um, endeavor of being super radically super unjudgmental. And I think to you were the person that helped me a lot to get there, even though I'm still not I mean I can be super awesome with like being like in theory, right? But in practice I know that I'm not the best, because really if I have to say someone who's the best at being non-judgmental is you. And
I
um but my effort is that I know that I can be judgmental, but that's why I put a mental checklist for myself to stop me from being very judgmental. So on my checklist, there are a few questions before I try to jump into the conclusion. The first question is that, do I know this person 100%, being that I know where this person was born, how this person's childhood looked like, and how everything, that I know this person 360, right? and and the second question is that, have I made effort to try to understand this person? Have I made effort to put myself into this person's shoes? And the third part is that, have I clarified, have I shared my feedback with this person, right? And then if all these answers are nope, I don't know this person 100%, I never made effort, didn't give this person a feedback or a chance to, to maybe let them know what I think, then who am I to judge this person? I'm not qualified. And at the same time, even if the answer three, I have three yeses, I've made effort to know this person. I feel like I know this person 100%, and I clarify and I gave feedback. Even if those things happened and this person still makes me feel uncomfortable, or make me feel like I can't deal with it anymore, or everything, I can't control this person's behavior, but I can control my actions. I can control my behavior. I can either keep my distance. I can try to control my actions. I can choose not to hurt this person in return, even if this person hurt me, right? I can choose to stay true to my value. Yeah, so that's my last message of my maybe what I've learned since last September.
I think it's so. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We come back in the beginning and we link to the first episode because you mentioned that to express. I mean, first, thank you for your comment on being non-judgmental, and then, yeah, you mentioned to be really to be able to express kindness the best way. You need to be able to speak out and really be humble and understand the other person. And I think it's what you just described. I think it's interesting because we come back to kindness. And the third point you mentioned is your definition of kindness, which is to understand someone through the small checklist and then asking yourself, have I done that? If yes, no, I mean, then whatever. But I think that's interesting, putting words on what kindness means to you. I wonder, like concretely with the checklist, like do you like, for example, if a question, like some answers are no, like for example, you met someone, that person is so annoying, but then you realize you said no to some of the questions, like would you like the next day, or would you send a message like, hey, let's have a chat to get to know more each other, or let's have a chat, I have some feedback? Would it work, does it work like this?
Mm, yes and nope. So I think yes, in the sense that, if this person keeps coming to my life and it's like not one-off interactions, and I need to there's some sort of interactions in the future, and things needs to be more constructive. And yes, I think it's my job to reach out to share my feeling and feedback. And no, in a sense that if it's one-off interactions, and there's no there's no further engagement with this person, then I wouldn't tell all, I wouldn't like have this very deep conversation with everyone I met, and everyone frustrates me in my life. It really depends on the future if I will have more interactions with this person.
Okay.
Mm.
And on the first point as well, to understand how you use in the first checklist, it's something that you go through like every day before going to sleep, and you like answer yes, no, or is it a digital checklist? Like how does it work in your daily life?
It's in my head right now. So I don't have like a digital journal of like every day ticking boxes of of all these things. It's just in my head, and I think um, I activate them the most whenever I feel when I feel sad, or I feel like there are incidents during the day that I can't comprehend or can't digest. So I will activate them immediately with all this checklist. So it's like um it's like it's what we also talk about in the first episode, right? It's our mental muscle that it's like sometimes when I face challenges, it's as if I need to lift 10 kgs. Oh wait, 10 kgs is too light for me now. Oh, you know what? Now I can do deadlift of 55 kgs. So let's say 60
Wow.
kgs, okay? So let's say 60 kgs. I have to lift this up, right? So I have to practice and have to constantly lift this muscle, and in the way, and then when during the time when when it's heavier than my usual practice, I have to focus and activate that part of mental muscle more, right? And but because I practices regularly, my muscle, I know the muscle can handle it. And once I overcome that weight, I know that I can lift even heavier the next time.
Hmm. It's Yeah, no, I'm asking because it's interesting. Some people, they have a journal, they use it, at regular times. We mentioned about Savvy, he has an Excel document. And yeah, it's more like, yeah, like as you mentioned, mental muscle. So something happens and your mind knows, I mean, not knows, but you automatically think about all the checklists. And it's not super interesting. I've never heard of someone doing that before.
Can I just quickly uh, mention why I feel like I want to laugh so badly now? In the beginning in our conversation, the lighting of your background is so different. So now it's like
Now
you're
I'm in
more
the
and more.
dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
the light switch is too far away. I cannot. Okay, I want to conclude with two questions. So two new
Oh.
questions for second rounds of interviews. Um, think the first one is you've met so many people um, from very grassroots, locals. Oh, the light just appeared magically. Um,
Whoa.
you met, I don't know, a lot of government, a lot of singers, a lot like pretty much. I mean, you met a lot and a lot of people, and you keep meeting a lot of people all the time. I just wonder, is there anyone? No, let's say yeah. If you could have dinner with anyone, like right after this interview, who would that be?
Mm, is there any criteria of this person in the sense like anyone as a person that I want to catch up with, or anyone as a person I didn't get a chance to interact much, but I really want to know more about, or anyone as the person I really miss from, um, from previous before lockdown. So, do you have any
I would say
criteria?
whatever emerges from from yeah, whatever that you think about when you hear this question.
Um, yeah, I think my answer will stay the same. I always answer this question with my mom. Like really want to have dinner with her, and the reason is that I feel like what I'm learning and what I'm reflecting a lot will actually help her as well. Well, well, I don't want to go back to that whole her lifeline episode, but basically, we had a lot of deep conversation, a lot of chat, a lot of helping her understand and see things from different perspective. And I think the reason why I want to have dinner with her is I want to share all this like checklist mental knowledge with her and trying to help her understand her feeling, because she's very very similar to me, the previous me, like very emotional, very insecure, and um, and then she sometimes doesn't understand what actually our intention behind our emotions. So I tried that last year during Chinese New Year. I only went back home for 7 days, but I think it really helps her to see things from very very different perspectives. So I want to give back to my mom, to really empower her, to let her know that she can take control of her feelings, of things that happened around her.
It's yeah, it's funny how she's the one who empowered you the first place, and now you want to come back and yeah, give back everything that she gave you. Yeah, it reminds me of a very famous quote. Yes, go ahead.
I want to say she listened to our first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like she doesn't understand a lot of English, but she tried to check with me if she understood correctly.
Wow, so
So yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Now it reminds me of the quote from Hita. Youth need to be the change maker, but the bridges to their own community. So for me, it's like you bring back everything you've learned everywhere back to not only your mom. I'm sure if you go back to Xiamen, I mean, you'll go back to China in a few months, few weeks, in 2 months. Yeah, I think you'll meet everyone back, and yeah, I think you'll bridge the knowledge between yeah, everything you learn and back to Xiamen. And yeah, my final question. I know that, I mean, I think you've supported a lot of people, you've inspired a lot of people through movers, through everything. And yeah, I think everyone wants to know how they can support you. So, how can people
Oh.
support you?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's unexpected. Okay, so flattered. How can they support me? Well, in a practical sense, join the Movers program, join Storius, and in a non-practical sense, join
Okay, I'm not sure if it's me or Linka. I guess it's Linka. So let me. Oh, it's my turn to do some monologues. Um, so yeah, join the Movers program, like the Facebook page of Storius, and back to you, Linka, to continue.
yes. So yeah, join Movers, join Stories, and I think in daily life, really think about how treat other people as the way that you wanted to be treated, and in a way that we all wanted to be understood, right? Whenever we do something, whenever we say something, we wanted to be understood, and it's always so empowering and always so comfortable when you answer when you get when you have a conversation and your first sentence starts with "I understand" instead of "but" or instead of "well, I think." So start with your sentence with like "yes, I understand," and so it's very very tiny things, but it actually gives people around you feel like you're making effort to understand them. You were not judge other people. So start with that, and then at the same time think about I would say think about how you want to leave a message to people around you. How do you want other people perceive you? And then a lot of time, many times, what we say, what we and especially our actions gives a message and impression to people around us, right? So what is your message? um and and yeah, if you can always let me know, how how things how movers or stories or things that happened around me are bringing some positive impact to you. I think that's the most amazing things to hear. So in this like there's a booklet for us to reflect on how we spent our past 1 year. I don't remember the name of that booklet, but basically there's this question, who are the three people that I impacted on the most for the past 1 year, a year compass. And so for me, I always do that reflections in my birthday. And I don't do it in a way like I assume that, oh, I impacted this person. Usually on my birthday, I pay attention to how people wish me. Uh, if so The way that they wish me, okay, so how much I did to other people to to either change their life, or to give them a positive dose of their life. And I think that's something that I always pay attention to during my birthday. And yeah, so I really look forward to learning about how your life has been more positive because of things that I've created. But really, for me, whenever I'm listening to a speech or I'm listening to a sharing, I always relate the speaker and then ask myself, is it relatable? Do I want to be that kind of person? And is there a possibilities of my future that I will be as amazing and awesome as that? So it's not just about, oh my God, this person is so impressive, it's amazing. And that same goes to, that I'm sharing right now. If you just think that oh, I'm doing what I'm saying is impressive and it's amazing, that doesn't work for me. I would like to push you to think about, can you change your behavior? You don't have to like follow me, right? But can you take actions? Can you change a little bit, and then start to reflect your life and start to think about how you can bring your message to people around you? So that's what I would see, that I'm that this sharing is more successful. So it's not just about, oh, this speaker is impressive. It's really about how you will also um, take actions.
Cool. Everyone, I hope you notice that when you ask Linka how we can support her, she answers stuff which is not about her. So it's really hashtag giver. But yeah, remember May 7th, right? Yes, May 7th, Linka's
Yes.
birthday. Wish her very, very happy birthday. And yeah, I think it's perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Linka. I think you, as I will say my ending words, you will beat the record of the longest episode of my, which was 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I think we are passing it right now.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much. It's 3 hours in total with the first episode. Yeah, you've seen all the crazy reactions on the chat. And yeah, I think it was so cool to be able to speak more about movers, about Storius, about your mental model. I still wanted to, actually, I still had a lot of topics I wanted to share about, but maybe for part 3, who knows? Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
right. I
people.
think we didn't talk about our like the exercise, Muay Thai, and workouts, but we will definitely leave that for next round. And yeah, thank you so much for having me here. And like Lifeline has become one of the things that I do, like my weekly routine, that I usually listen. It's like following a TV series, that kind of routine, right? Like every week there's a new episode released, and you listen to what's going on. And yeah, for those of you who are listening, I highly recommend you to follow Lifeline, follow its Instagram, its LinkedIn, its Facebook page, and also subscribe and listen to, um, give yourself a treat of positive message every week, right? So see that as your personal treat, that you treat yourself 1 hour, 2 hour with positive life story, and then note down a few things that you've learned, you've take away from each week of Lifeline episode. That helps me a lot. I actually learned so much from each of the speakers, and it's amazing to for me. It's also amazing to know that there are so many very interesting people in other parts of the world. At the same time, it's also amazing to know that a lot of people think very, very similar to me. And it's very, really assuring to have that feeling of, like, oh, I'm not the only person who come up with this, and it's super cool that this we think alike. So do subscribe to Lifeline and listen to each of the episodes.
I think that's the best feedback I could get today. Um, and yeah, start with the first episode, obviously, everyone. And I think also just some congratulations for everyone. I think some stayed for the 2 hours. So congrats to you. You are the real heroes. Longer than the movers workshop. So yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for all the emojis, the comments, and see you for another episode.
Thank you. Happy Songkran.
Happy Songkran, Happy New Year in Thailand and Cambodia.
Yay.